Okay. Hi, this is Marshall Conley, and I'm a consultant with the Geneseo Public Library. Today is May 23rd, 2018, and I'm at the Geneseo Public Library with veteran Paul Bruine. So thanks, Paul, for being here with us today. The first set of questions is really biographical stuff. So to start off, when and where were you born?
June 29th, 49. I feel like I should just give my service number too. I was born in Moline, Illinois, Moline Hospital.
Okay.
Grew up in Silvis, about a block or two from Hero Street, actually.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
All right. And then, did you spend your entire childhood in the Quad Cities area, or?
Yes, I did. I grew up in Silvis and went to East Moline High School. I have an East Moline letter jacket, EM instead of UT.
Oh yeah.
I don't know when they made the UTX, changeover, but United Township.
Okay.
We weren't good in anything anyway, so basketball we were tough.
Yeah.
Football not so much.
Yeah. All right. And then, who were your parents?
My parents were Frank and Betty Bruine, and they grew up in the Quad Cities also. My father was a railroad man, and he was in the Marine Corps, by the way, World War II. And my mother was a Rock Islander. So.
Great. And then, did you have any siblings?
No, I didn't. No
Okay.
brothers, no sisters to argue with. My cousins grew up close by, so they were just like brothers and sisters, but I didn't have any direct brothers and sisters myself.
Okay. And you mentioned your father was in the Marine Corps. Was there anyone else in your family, cousins, grandparents, uncles that were in the service?
Yes, coincidentally, my cousin Walter Ingholm was my mother's sister's oldest, and he was in the Marine Corps. He tried to talk me into actually going into the service in lieu of my senior year in high school, and thank goodness I had the brains to say, and forgive me, but I had the brains to say, no, I think I'll finish my high school time first, and I think it would have been a big mistake if I would have gone into the service without my high school degree. But anyway.
Okay.
Fortunately, he came home.
Yeah, great. And did he have any wartime service?
Yes, he did. He was in Vietnam, and he seemed to come out of it okay. I mean, unscathed, pretty much, mentally and physically.
That's great.
Which I think can't be said for a lot of them. My father, unfortunately, was one that didn't do so well.
Yeah. Okay.
Forgive me.
Right. Now, do you want to talk a little bit about your father's service in World War II?
Yeah, I do. He left his cup, his mess kit, and he scribbled on here everywhere he was, and he was. I don't think he had a lot of rank as far as anything above a corporal. I don't believe, but he was in a lot of places, and he was an MP for a while. And I think he was an MP because he didn't drink and he didn't smoke, which is kind of a strange thing in the service, especially during those times.
Yeah.
Just about everybody smoked and the smoking lamp was lit, myself included. I quit like 20-some years ago, but I smoked over 2 packs a day when I was smoking because there wasn't anything else to do. But anyway, I've got his service number right here. It says 480032. And when he was in boot camp, etc., it was 1943. And he was in the service till 1945. And he was at a lot of places. Guadalcanal is probably the most significant one, and probably the most noteworthy. Unfortunately, I didn't get any details from him because he didn't talk about it, which is true of a lot of veterans.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the less they talked, probably the worse off they were.
Yeah, I imagine so.
And I can say that because I was in Yuma, and I was pretty safe. Nothing going on that was dangerous for me during my time in the service. thank goodness, knock on wood.
Yeah. So, thank you for sharing that too. That's
Sure.
fascinating history. Now you mentioned you finished high school before enlisting. Did you enlist right away after high school, or were you doing something else at the time?
Yeah, that's good question, good timing. I was young and restless, and I went to Blackhawk College for 6 or half a year. Didn't pay attention to my courses like I should have, and so instead of being reprimanded, I was told I needed to sit out a quarter. And much to my chagrin, I said, well, I can do that. And I went to work on the railroad and talked to a friend of mine. Talked him into going to my cousin told me, my cousin Walter, who tried to get me to go in when I was a high schooler, did say if I went in on a buddy system, which buddy system means 4 years, 2 years for me and 2 years for my buddy, the government would get 4 years time out of us, and I'd get my obligation of service time out of the way. And you know, if I liked it, I could always re-enlist. But she said I probably wouldn't really like it that much, and he was probably right about that. But so anyway, I talked to a friend of mine into going into service and felt bad about it later because he went to Vietnam and I went to Yuma. But fortunately, he came out of it whole. So as far as I know.
Yeah. Interesting how that breaks that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But kudos to my cousin who said, you know, tried to talk me into going into high school and then said, you know, the 2-year plan was a good idea. And I think it was fortunate. I got my obligation out of the way. I think my dad was a little bit shocked that I signed up. He wasn't pushing me in any way, shape, or form. But and in fact, like I mentioned before, he never talked about it, so there wasn't any John Wayne stories for him to tell.
Sure. Okay.
There probably was, but he didn't tell them.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting. Okay. So you did enlist in the buddy system. What branch?
Marine Corps.
Marine Corps. So you did go to the Marines. All right.
Yeah.
And do you recall what date you enlisted or what year?
69.
Okay.
Went in on the 90-day delay program, so I had 3 months to drink and smoke and run in corrals and be nasty and you know, relax. But then you knock on wood and say, what did I do? You know, why did I do that? But you do a lot of crazy things when you're 18
Sure.
or 19 or whatever it was.
Well, this is a crazy time in our country's history.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned you had a friend who talked to you about it. You went in on the buddy system. Was there any other motivation to enlist? That you know what?
There was probably some nudging by. I was a bad driver or wild driver, and I got speeding tickets about every 4 weeks, I think it seemed like. And anyway, I did have a judge tell me one time that he said I could go to jail or I could go into service. And I said I was already planning on going into service, and so he dismissed the case. And
No. Okay.
that was the last time I was in court, I think.
Okay.
And I was just a silly driver.
Sure.
I was, you know, trying to see how fast I had a Z28 and trying to see how fast it could go, and
Yeah.
it went fast.
Okay.
Fast enough.
Had you considered other branches, or was this
No.
the one you knew, and that's what you went? Yep. Okay.
Yeah. My dad, my cousin, those two guys, you know,
Yeah.
kind of taught me they didn't say it was going to be easy by any means, but it was worth it, I think.
All right.
Probably do it again, but I wouldn't want my kid to do it,
Yeah.
if that makes any sense.
No, it does. it makes total sense. So you mentioned, you know, you had this delay period where you're kind of like thinking about the decision and all of that. You know, and you knew folks that had served, you knew close relationships. What did you think it was going to be like? Did you have any expectations going in?
The expectations I had going in were going to be treated like roughly, going to be, and then fear of the unknown. You just don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't used to having people steal things from you, and in the service you better get used to it because they'll steal you blind. We issued two covers, which was a hat
Mm-hmm.
with they call them piss cutters, and they had a crease down the middle. Well, anyway, and then we had two baseball type caps, and we were supposed to starch those, believe it or not, and make them pristine looking. And I went to starch my hat, my extra hat, and it was gone, and nowhere to be found. It turned out some guy named Smith stole a bunch of stuff, and he finally got caught because he just had nowhere else to put his stuff. And he got stuffed into they had a closet about this size for 80 of us, and we put all of our, what do I want to call them, duffel bags, stuffed them full of stuff, so it'd be like if you're Santa Claus, you're carrying your bag, and everybody had their bags. They stuffed them into this room. They stuffed this Smith kid into this room and turned the lights on him and left him in there all day. So he couldn't have been comfortable because the room was full of duffel bags. And to teach him a lesson, I don't know if it taught him a lesson or not because he probably just slept all day, but it was dark, uncomfortable, and they probably did some other things to him that I wasn't aware of because they had some strange and unusual punishments for things. I got caught reading the paper one time and drank 2/3 of a bottle of Tabasco sauce for punishment.
Goodness.
And it was, I think I almost threw up, and that's why I only got 2/3 of it down. But what kind of a punishment is that? And why is it reading the paper against the rules and regulations? But we were supposed to be cleaning our rifles, and that's all we did was all day long on a Sunday until I saw the cartoons or whatever. And so I was reading the paper and got caught. Paid the price. One price anyway.
Okay. So you had some kind of fear of the unknown, a little bit of expectations, and then what was it like to leave home?
It was. For me, it was strange because it was just one of those things. Everything was new. Everything was unique. We got out to San Diego and stood on yellow footprints, and then the sergeant came out and said, "Oh boy, what a bunch," and then walked out. Probably went and had coffee or went home and went to sleep because it was like, I want to say 10 o'clock at night. And they left us standing there all night long. They came back about 5:30 or something, and people are laying down sleeping, and they woke us up with, "What are you guys doing? Taking a break or whatever?" And of course we stand up and you go, "You don't know what time it is. You don't know what time of day it is." Anyway, it was a unique adventure. Then we ended up in Quonset huts for about 2 weeks, I think.
Okay.
And they were cold, or damp anyway.
Yeah. And so you were in San Diego for training?
Yes.
What rank were you when you entered?
Private.
Private. And what was training like? What kind of things did you?
Training was like it's like they expect you to be a genius. When I say genius, not a genius, they expect you to be with it, so to speak, because we're going along, we're drilling, and I just so happened to be taller than most of the guys in my line, so I ended up as a squad leader, if you will, and we were paired off in groups of 80, and so I'm in line, I'm showing this guy how to stand and being this far away from him, etc., etc. And like I said, we didn't know what we were supposed to be doing. They said, "Well, get these guys in line, or you'll be in line." And the next thing I knew, I was in line, and somebody else came up and took my place. And I thought, what's this all about? And they were trying to set examples they wanted the guys in front to, for example, they said, like, "Charlie's not looking very bright. I want you to beat Charlie up tonight." I wasn't going to do that. So I was only a squad leader for about 3 days. And when they asked me to beat somebody up, I decided that maybe being a squad leader wasn't all that important. But I did tell whoever took my place, I said, if you come for me, you better come with everything you got.
Yeah, my goodness.
But I didn't have any issues. I was a good follower, but I wasn't a leader.
Yeah. Okay. Did you train for any kind of specific role or job?
I surprisingly, when we got our orders after boot camp, they posted orders and we got what we call MOS designations. My MOS was 0141, which equates to administrative personnel. And I thought, what does administrative personnel do in the service? And they sent us to a 4-week class, and I thought, no, we had a typing test the first day or the second day, and I didn't even take typing in high school. I thought I was going to be toting a machine gun real quick because I typed 20 words a minute with 2 errors. And that was about what I think I did 20 words a minute with 1 error after I improved. And I thought, something tells me I'm not going to be typing very long. And fortunately, they didn't type a lot of stuff, so it worked to my advantage. I had 6 months of college, and that was 6 months more than 99% of the Marine Corps guys had. So I was an admin. I guess they figured I could read. Some guys almost couldn't read, I think.
Yeah. And then anything else from that training stand out? I mean,
that training stands out a little bit because there were, like I said, there was like about 80 of us in a platoon. But we had 80 guys from Oklahoma that came in all at once. So that was 1/4 of our battalion, I guess. And then another 80 guys from Hawaii. And they were kind of a rambunctious group. And neat to be around at Christmas time because they sang Hawaiian Christmas songs. And sticks out in my mind, unfortunately, I wasn't a singer. So otherwise I'd love to sing what they did. They were just super. But, and then everybody else was just hodgepodge, the other 2 groups. And trying to think of what else took place that was significant. Yeah. Lost my train of thought.
That's right. So you talked about some of the tougher parts of training and kind of how people were treated and all of that. Was there any part that when you were in either boot camp or in this administrative training that like was easy to get used to, or was appealing, or?
There were some times when I mentioned this guy stole my hat. We were, after we left the Quonset huts, we ended up in a nice barracks, and it was like a 2 or 3 story structure, and we were on the 2nd or 3rd story, and we had a railing that the sergeant could stand on top of the railing and look out over the troops, and he could review us before we went on the tarmac and marched around. Well, anyway, he looked out and he said, "Who's the puke with the wet hat?" And of course, I was unfortunately the puke with the white hat, the red hat. And the guy next to me goes, "He's talking to you," because he repeated about 3 times, as if I didn't hear him the first time. And he said, "You better get up here." And so he wanted me to fall out and run up there, which I did. And when I got up there, he said, "What are you doing? Why is your hat wet?" And I told him that I only had one, so I was wearing it. And he took my rifle and left a rifle butt mark in my chest. I'm surprised I still don't have it, or maybe I don't have a chest and that's why. But he missed my ribs, but he knocked the wind out of me. It was just unpleasant. But then he gave me my rifle back because he didn't break any ribs. And even though I could see the rifle butt mark in my chest, it was probably there for a couple of days. It was just a weird punishment for somebody who had their hat stolen.
Right.
Anyway.
Interesting.
And he got me twice with a rifle butt. But it was one of those things, you say, well, why didn't you defend yourself or stick your arm up? You just don't. You don't have time to think about those things, and you just don't.
Yeah, probably would have been worse.
Yeah, right.
To follow that if you
probably would have
too.
broken ribs if. But anyway.
Yeah. So was all the training basic and the administrative training in San Diego, or did you?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, we We were at San Onofre for a while,
Okay.
infantry training, which was, I think, close to Camp Helen, because we didn't go very far in buses or whatever.
Yeah.
We were in the mountains.
Mm. Okay. And then, so you transitioned from training to actual service activity or
Yeah.
service activity. So that when you went to Yuma?
Well, actually, we went to San Onofre, did our infantry
Mhm.
training. I did my admin school right
Mhm.
after that, which was 4 weeks long. Got my first set of orders and was set to go to A Company, 11th Engineers in 29 Palms, California.
Okay.
And biggest Marine Corps base, biggest military base in the world. It just looks like a big chunk of Southern California.
Sure.
It's a huge area. And anyway, I was there 33 days. I was there 31 or 32 days, and some sergeant major came by, and sergeant majors are usually been around the service forever,
Mm-hmm.
and came by and said, "Are you the new guy?" I said, "Yes, sir." And he said, "We need somebody to go to Yuma. How would you like to go?" And I said, I'm just getting used to this place, so I'm fine where I'm at. I've been here 31 days, blah, blah, blah. And he said, fine. So the day ended. He came back looking for me. He said, "Hey, are you the volunteer for Yuma?" I said, "No, I didn't volunteer." He says, "Yeah, yes, you did." So I ended up volunteering for Yuma, unbeknownst to me, I guess. But I had least seniority, so to speak. So I was there 31 days at the time. So 33 days in, I got transferred to Yuma. That was the good news. The bad news that I didn't get to share in was we got a call the next day for how many guys had been to Vietnam, and so we had to go. And I know that because I was in the admin section, and we were filing numbers away. And I asked some lieutenant. I said, "Am I going to Yuma, or am I going there? I'm going with you guys." And he goes, "You're going to Yuma." So I went to Yuma, and they went to Vietnam. It was a good trade-off, I guess.
Yeah, 1 day difference.
Yeah,
Yeah.
1 day.
Wow. Okay. So you went to Yuma, and what was day to day like when you were there?
The Yuma was, I don't know, you didn't even feel like you were in the service really, because, well, number one, in the summertime, we worked our work hours were 6 a.m. to 12 noon, and then we got the rest of the day off because it was so dang hot. You could fry an egg on your Jeep, and some guys did just to show off. I don't know why, but I guess you don't have a lot to do sometimes. But anyway, we were right on the edge of town at the local Yuma Airport, and Yuma Airport and Marine Corps Air Station are side by side. So it was an old Air Force base, and I guess the Air Force didn't have a lot of planes at the time, so they dropped at the base, and the Marine Corps ended up with it. So we had two little fighter jets. I can't remember the names of them, but I got a book from Yuma that I guess proves I was an idiot. Got a picture of me doing a recreationally shooting layup. I think I made it, but you can't tell by. My son tells me, he says it's not me, and I said, yeah, it is. But anyway.
So filing, typing, other.
Yeah, filing, typing. I mean, you can't get too glamorous filing and typing. And we had, trying to think of a good example, but well, we had our share of characters. We had one guy tried to get out, and he finally got his wish. They discharged him. He walked across the the airplane hangar naked, and the sergeant major saw him and said, "Who's the idiot with no clothes on?" And somebody said he's been trying to get out for ever since he's been here. And sergeant major said, "Well, he just succeeded. He's out of here."
Jeez.
And so. But you see all kinds in the service too.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned, the guy that stole, they kept him in, but probably watched him closely.
Yeah. So was there, in that role, Vietnam's going on
Mhm.
too. What were there any kind of connections, or how are you aware of like what you were doing versus what was going on over
We did
there?
have, speaking of that, a good question, but we had orders come down one time. I would say I was there about 8, 9 months, 10 months maybe. And we had orders come in from, I can't remember where they came in from, but it just said we needed, I think it was four 0141s, which was clerks.
Mm-hmm.
And the sergeant that I worked for said, we don't even, he was talking to me like I was gonna help him make the decision, but he didn't ask me for any advice. He just said, don't they know that you're the only clerk we have? And I thought, oh, he's telling me in a roundabout way. I'm the only trained clerk, so I'm gonna be one of the 4.
Mm-hmm.
And I swallowed hard and thought, well, what are you gonna do? One of our guys was married, so I said, if only one guy gets to stay, the married guy might as well stay, because these were Vietnam orders. And somehow our sergeant came up with a brain idea that we couldn't spare anybody. That's a new one on me, but I was happy to hear that because I didn't want to go to Vietnam really, because at that time they weren't getting any good press, and it just didn't sound good. So that was as close as probably came to a nightmare. Other than one other thing happened, and this is the end of my story probably for Yuma, and since I was mostly in Yuma service-wise, it would be just general questions, but talk about scared. I guess scared is the only word I can think of. But anyway, we had a code red, and I said, what are we doing? Does anybody know? And Scuttlebutt had it that the Hell's Angels were coming through Yuma, and they were going to wreck the town or have their way with Yuma. And we were supposed to protect the citizens, but we didn't have any weapons.
Jeez.
Well, I shouldn't say we didn't have any weapons. We had weapons. We had no ammo. And I said, oh, great. We're going to go into town with no ammo, with some moron that thinks he loves to throw his chain around in a circle.
Yeah.
I said, this can't be good. And fortunately, we didn't even see any Hell's Angels. So, but we were, I know I was nervous. I'm assuming the other guys were nervous too, because we weren't trained to fight motorcycle gangs. And it just didn't seem like a bright idea, but anyway, fortunately it didn't
come to pass.
Materialize, right?
Yeah.
So that was the end of the story.
Okay. And so you said you were in Yuma 8 to 9 months.
Yep.
What after that?
After that, I just ended up discharged from Yuma. The sergeant came up to me one day after I'd been promoted a few times and said, "You're about due for a promotion, aren't you?" And I was kind of chuckling because I wasn't due for a promotion. I've been promoted 3 times, which was in 3 months almost every time. And they were dangling the carrot in front of me. He said, "You want to be I was a corporal,
Okay.
which was an E4, means 4 pay grades in. And so I was a non-commissioned officer, and I thought I was going to get a raise, but I made the mistake of admitting that I was short-timer. I said, I've got about 3 months and I'm out of here. And they said, what do you mean, you going on vacation? I said, no, I'm being discharged in about 3 months. And they were processing me for a secret clearance at the time. And I said, you might as well forget that, because it takes so long that by the time they get cleared, I'll be home.
Yeah.
And I'm not re-enlisted, and that was the end of that.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and then that would have been what, 1971?
That would have been 1971.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you discharged, as a corporal?
Discharged as a corporal honorably, thank goodness. Didn't do anything silly.
Yeah. Did you have any other like awards or commendations or anything?
Just that I was in a good spot, because clerks usually they got promoted fast.
Yeah.
Just because of the nature of their job. They had to type letters for a colonel, had to measure boxes that we were going to take his stuff. Like he had a rug, a big rug in front of his desk, and he asked me one day what I was doing, and I said I was measuring his rug because we were supposed to make a box for it, and he said, what do you think? And I told him I thought it was repugnant or something like that. And he said, what was that word? And he said, I wish I would have thought of that. And I just kind of chuckled, and he said, don't bother. He said, I'm not going to take that rug with me if we go. So some of the guys were reasonable.
Yeah.
Not too many, surprisingly.
Interesting.
I didn't drink coffee, but I made coffee, and I didn't make it well, I could tell, because the colonel said, what's this?
Nice. Okay. So you discharged in 1971. What next? What was next for you?
What was next for me was I went back to college. Was glad to do so. I ended up going to Western Illinois, Macomb, and joined the XGI Chi Gamma Iota jackets. It said XGI, just to put a spoof. Sorry on you guys that were in frats, but
We both were.
yeah. But then the frats kicked our butts in football. I thought we were going to do the other way around, but
Yeah.
I think it was because our practice time was bad or poor. But we got kicked around. We played the Turkey Bowl.
Oh yeah.
It was cold, and the frats were organized, and they like they said, they put it to us. But oh well, somebody's got to be athletic, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, those guys were. Who knows what those guys were doing while you guys were serving in the military?
Right.
So.
That's true. They were probably drinking beer like I would have been doing if I would have been in it.
All right, and then so you went to Western, and then had a career. You went to...
Yeah, got out of the service. Ended up working with Chris Selman's dad. We had a good time working in insurance.
Okay.
We got some advanced classes due to our boss's connections with Purdue University. Got some major classroom time down there, and then we went to Illinois, University of Illinois. Had some major classes down there too. Had a good time. We made up for lost time.
Yeah. Very good. Very cool. So, the last set of kind of questions are just, your general reflections. You've been sharing a lot about kind of the experience, and so what sticks out as the strongest memory for you from your time?
Oh boy, that's a good question. I think one of the things that sticks out in my mind was like we were stationed at the airport there, and I came back from leave. I'd been gone about a week, and this guy comes up to me and goes, "Hey, did your uncle ever catch up to you?" I said, "Pardon me?" He says, "Your uncle." And I said, "Oh, no, you must have you mixed up with somebody." He said, "No, you got an uncle named Al?" You know, oh, my uncle has a plane. He has a private plane. He flew his family in they were going to go to Disneyland. And on their way to Disneyland, they stopped into Yuma to see me and surprise me. It surprised me so much I was home on leave, so I missed him. But he's also surprised me. He's still kicking. He's 96.
Wow.
Anyway, he's got like 5 or 6 holes in one. So my family's ruined for like 5 generations. I mean, I'll never see one probably. I won't even come close because of him.
Yeah.
He's like a lightning rod. But good guy though.
Yeah.
And he had one son.
Yeah.
And his son, fortunately I didn't talk his son into going in, but I should have.
Sure.
I got out of the service and came back. He was built like me when I went in the service. When I came out, he was like this, about this wide. He'd done a lot of weightlifting for 4 years, or 2 years, I guess it was. I was gone. It seemed like I was gone 4 years, but I've only gone 2. But it would have been interesting to see what would have happened to him if he would have gone in the service.
Sure.
But he probably wouldn't go anyway.
Yeah.
Actually, he had more brains, I think, than I did at the time. I like to think it worked to my advantage, but long term, short term was ugly.
Yeah.
So, last question or a couple questions. So if these videos are obviously telling stories and preserving the sort of memories of people who served in various branches, various wars. So, for anyone that watches this video or accesses this in the future, what message would you have for them about service or the country or anything?
Well, I think based on what I can see from other companies or other areas as a service, I just say we're in a great country, and I wish I could think of something earth-shattering, but I can't. But I think we were very fortunate in a lot of ways. The people that serve, it's just a tough time to be away from your home. But when you're gone, you know why you're gone.
Mm-hmm.
And
So,
everybody's got this common thread of common goal. Get out alive and make sure the guy next to you gets out alive too, hopefully.
that's a poignant line. It's a tough time to be away, but you know why you're away.
Mm-hmm.
Any other thoughts to close out?
I think my son did a great job. I was gonna say I would have stuck more things in there about where my dad was because he's got it all documented on his canteen. But my son did that with what do you call it? He had a written essay
Mm-hmm.
that he had to get, and he had a Marine Corps scholarship, $4,000 I think it was, and it's so my dad's information was written on that in his essay.
Oh, wow.
And he did a good job of putting it on paper.
Okay.
So much more articulate than I am, and better in English, and so on and so forth. So that's a good thing.
And we can take a picture of that
Sure.
cup to put with
yeah.
the interview.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
That's what we have. So, Chris, anything?
Mm-hmm.
Thanks very much for sharing. We appreciate it
No problem.
quite a bit.
I hope I didn't get choked up at any time.
Doesn't matter.
No, it's okay. Wouldn't be the first time.